Just stupid. Okay, you're done. You're done. You're done. Okay. Hi, I'm Gabrielle Limpert.
2 hours later.
Hello. I remember I gave him this like impossible task. I played him this ballad, that it sounded like. And I said, do you hear this? I want it to sound the exact opposite of this. So I didn't show him what I wanted it to sound like. I showed him what I didn't want it to sound like, and he was like, okay. The piano just fit it. It was a song I could play, and I just created this different melody to it, and I was super excited, and the lyrics just came together with the melody like puzzle pieces. It was so satisfying to finish. And I actually wrote like more than was needed, and I still one day perhaps maybe want to release like a extended acoustic version or something. But it's funny, it's of course sad, but I think it's really angry. I wanted to actually make it angry, and I feel like I came to Sawyer with like this ballad. Like I wrote this like pretty thing, but I'm actually really angry, and he helped me like channel that. He started building this beat over it, and I wanted to use that creepy like like under and over it, pitch my voice down, and I almost wanted it to be this villain like theme song, and we just put those like creepy like violins in. I just remember like him really loving my first few like vocal takes, and we started with just the piano, and all of a sudden it was just like, this isn't this like angry song that I want at all. I was like, it's so painfully slow. Like it is so slow. This is gonna be like a 7-minute song. And I wanted to kind of like, you know, fool everyone that like they'd hear the start, like, oh, Gabby's just doing like a ballad, okay, on to the next one, you know, she's just doing like a piano ballad, like whatever. And I wanted to like surprise everyone, and so it starts off, and then it just really like, dun, you're looking at me, like it just all of a sudden it just completely like changes. I didn't want it to be this like typical ballad, which I think is why the bridge and the build is like so crazy. And Sawyer just built this like crazy drum breakdown like in the bridge. It really helped me when I wasn't being perceived the way that I wanted and remembered the way that I wanted with someone. And I felt like this was the only like cathartic kind of thing that expressed it. But I only started to feel that way so passionately when the anger came through. And I feel like that beat and that switch up, that kind of like bad antagonist turnaround, which I almost like wish we leaned more into. I remember he's like, okay, like how long do we do this? Like how long do we, you're looking at me, like how long, you know, how do we end this, you know? Because it was just so like pivotal. Honestly, it didn't take me and Sawyer like that many sessions. I think it was a long time to like master and like mix and master and perfect, but like, hey. When you go back to California, I remember I was so surprised that I popped out this like falsetto-y like melody. I remember the rhyme California and Foria or something I thought was really cool. And luckily California did have like some significance to this kind of story. So I was like, I can do it in this song. It's my time. But I mean, I think that first verse kind of encapsulates what the whole song is about. When you go back to California, screaming at the water in my name. When I go back, I'll be looking for you, crying that it's just not the same. When that person goes back and looks back in retrospect, or goes to all those same places, they're gonna look back in anger and look back in this weird, deceitful space. and they're going to be angry. And that's how they remember things, and that's how they're coping, and that's how they're untruthful about it, or they're to make themselves feel better, whatever. But like when I go back to those places or think back, I look back in like sadness and regret. So it's just how two people who did experience the same thing together like can kind of break off and experience two different things completely differently and look back in them in retrospect. Memory is like a way we survive, you know, how we learn and how we cope and how we endure and keep going. Our memory, I think, speaks a lot about us. And there's this quote I love: the strongest, memory, what is it?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Darkest ink will be stronger than the most vivid memory, something like that, where it's like the pen and the things you write and the things you create, the things you write down are going to outlive and will surpass the strength of any like memory that you have. So me writing about it, I'll remember that now instead of this terrible thing. I know I did this, you said it's my fault, never not reminded, you hope that I don't call. I just think completely taking the blame. I just like carry that around all the time, like, oh, I was the one. No, I know, and they blame me. So no, it was me. And then they just carry on this anger. You take that on. You're like, oh yeah, it was totally all my fault. Right. Sorry. Who wrote this? Damn. Chasing every sign that I see, our death was all of me. I will not rest in peace. You keep antagonizing me. I think I played with like a death funeral theme, which is kind of funny with the wedding dress too, that is where like a conjoining happens and a funeral is where a severance, like happens. I played with that funeral death theme, so I think it was really fun with just leaning into the kind of corpse bride of it all. Not being the one. Rest in peace. I will not rest in peace. And the way that you buried me and the way that you remembered me, I'm not gonna be like peaceful and happy and restful about this. You keep antagonizing me. Something that I'm not. You're looking at me like you hate me, but I'm just a ghost that's thinking something else of me. And it's just a go. I mean, completely changing the perception of me and who I am and how things went down. Even the way that you tell other people they went down. To make yourself feel better. You went back and you changed every word we wrote. And in our narrative, in this song that we wrote together, you went back and you changed it and you made it what you wanted it to be. And that's how you remember it now. You still sing that song, but it's not the song that we wrote. Okay, damn. How could I do this? I'll be your antagonist. And then it's kind of just leaning into, okay, how could I do this? How could I do this? And I think when I wrote it, it was very much the literal meaning. Like, how could I do this? I feel like it gets like sarcastic later. How could I do this? Maybe. Soul leaves flesh, but even in death, I have something I want to prove. Well, I'll always have something to say. And even when I'm dead, I'll still have things I want to prove and want people to still think about me in a certain way. And I still do. When I return back to clay, I'll still have more to say. Death. And I'll have more I want to say about this. I want the last word. The last laugh, I guess. To ashes, dust to dust. I think you like hating me too much. All of a sudden, it started to look really good on them. What if I'm like speaking to like a ashes to ashes and dust to dust. I think you like hating me too much. All of a sudden, they really ran with hating me. Or something. I think the bridge is like realizing I'm not like the ingenue love interest anymore. I'm like the villain, the older, like jaded, misunderstood. Leaning into that. Once your love interest, you switched to my part. I was recast. You got a head start. As if everyone was in on it but me. Type of thing. Was the nail in the coffin. Now that we're not talking. Death. And as if the not talking was the catalyst to being the nail in the coffin, just being the for sure thing that it's dead and it sucks. I've gone rigor mortis. I know I'm not important. Just completely frozen at the circumstances and not being important to someone and realizing that not being as important sucks. Do you feel better now that I can't scream and shout? You've silenced me and buried me and whatever. I'm not part of your life, and so you feel better about this like narrative and thing that you turned me into, and you have to deal with that now. And only like you and I will truly know the truth.
Huh?
Sure. And you got her to hate me too, but I kept my mouth shut about you. And they told other people this villain antagonist thing. I'm not even, that's so self-explanatory. I'm not even gonna. I think that's it.
2 hours
We're
later.
done. Actually, thank you for having me, Stupid. I'm here with Stupid. Like behind my lyrics. Stream Antagonist. Stream again. 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 Again.